Your kink world was rocked and you were flying high from a scene or a session or a kinky chat, maybe intense sexting. But then a day or two, or maybe a few hours later, you crash. Exhausted, sad, lonely. What the fuck is happening? Well, my sweets, if this sounds familiar, you've experienced SubDrop. And trust me, you are not alone. Hello, my pets, and welcome into the dungeon, the podcast for submissives to learn, grow, be entertained, and to ultimately find empowerment in their lifestyle. I'm your host, KatNash, the Music City Dominatrix, and today we are exploring what SubDrop really is. Why does it happen? How it shows up in your mind and perhaps your body, and most importantly, what you can do to move through it with care and strength, because SubDrop doesn't need to be the end of the story. It can be just one more step on your journey of submission. Let's start with information. SubDrop. What is that? Isn't that some sort of sugary southern soda with a cult following? No, honey, that's SunDrop. Bless your little heart. SubDrop is the physical, emotional, or physiological crash that can occur after an intense scene or a period of submission. If you listened to last week's episode detailing the high protocol femdom soiree I attended, you heard me mention that the serving submissives in high protocol scenarios can very easily experience SubDrop. The intense nature of prolonged service, prolonged submission, and vulnerability has led submissives to tears in past events where aftercare was not considered. So it doesn't have to be a really physically deep BDSM scene like bondage or heavy impact in order for SubDrop to sneak up on someone. Dominants can also experience a version of this called DomDrop, but today's focus is on the submissive side. So how and why does SubDrop happen? Well, first off, there's the body's natural physiological responses to a scene or session. During a BDSM scene of intensity, the body releases adrenaline and noradrenaline. These are the hormones that trigger that flight or fight response. These can manifest as a racing heartbeat, heightened senses, a rush of energy, sometimes euphoria even. And once the scene ends, the body abruptly stops producing these chemicals so intensely that drop-off can leave you feeling exhausted, shaky, or sometimes emotionally flat. Any play that involves pain or restraint can also cause a release of endorphins. Now, endorphins are your body's natural opiates, the painkillers. So as they're blocking the pain, they're causing bliss and a high. And when these levels fall, just like any come down from like a drug, it could lead to a flood of the physical sensations that these painkillers were masking. And that can be soreness, pain, and then psychologically or emotionally, moodiness and discomfort. Then there's also oxytocin. This is produced during kink play that stems from physical touch, closeness, intimacy. So there can be this emotional connection that causes oxytocin. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical touch, but rope, like a long rope tying session, produces a lot of oxytocin. This bonding hormone is great. It's amazing in the moment. But the next day, if you are without physical closeness or a mental bond, this oxytocin can dip, leaving you feeling lonely, clingy, or insecure. Pardon the train in the background. Another neurotransmitter that fluctuates during physical or emotional play is cortisol. This is the stress hormone. I think of cortisol as like a constantly working, a constantly moving worker bee. It's always trying to create a sense of calm in you. It's always busting ass to try to create this balance. But due to the natural fluctuation that can happen in a scene, like, this is stressful or this is painful, but I also fucking love it. I mean, what a mind fuck for that poor little internal worker bee. So these cortisol fluctuations they contribute to feelings of fatigue, irritability, and even mild depression-like symptoms. Added to all of these chemical variations is the aspect of physical depletion and nervous system hyperactivity that's just naturally occurs during a scene. So from a scientific standpoint, SubDrop is not imaginary and it's not a weakness. It's literally your body serving you. Add to all of that, the chemical things that are going on, the emotional baggage that some subs experience. I mean, there can be a vulnerability hangover, Some people experience guilt, shame, insecurities. Sometimes there's additional fear of rejection or abandonment or that you just didn't do good enough. It can be a lot. So SubDrop can manifest as physical symptoms like fatigue, headaches, shakiness, soreness, coldness, cold limbs. And then there could be emotional symptoms like sadness, loneliness, irritability, anxiety, the feeling of emptiness. Some people occasionally experience mental symptoms. So like questions like self-worth, doubting the relationship or dynamic, feeling disconnected. All of this not only varies from person to person, but also from time to time, from instance to instance. And just because you felt a certain way before doesn't necessarily mean that that is how you will always feel. For some submissives, SubDrop affects if and with whom they play with. So each week I ask the community for their insight, opinions, or stories on the upcoming topic. Thank you to everyone who shares their personal insight. One sub, Sissy Cece, feels a certain degree of shame from their cross-dressing kink, and this leaves them feeling, in their own words, pathetic. To decrease these feelings, they will only scene with a friend or with those in which they feel a good connection with. Sessioning with a pro-dom is out for them. Even though they've done it in the past, they know that the conversations that they have in aftercare really wrap up the scene for them, and it becomes a rewarding experience versus something that is mentally kind of negative. Another individual, the creepy kitty, has the introspection to notice that their drop differs based on the type of scene, but it almost always includes anxiety and self-doubt. They mitigate these intrusive thoughts by seeking reassurance from their play partner and also by journaling. When all else fails, they accept their drop as temporary, and then they focus on self-care, like watching comforting movies, eating a delicious meal, or soaking in a bubble bath. Those who already experience depression or mental illness may have a hard time distinguishing between that, an episode in that, and SubDrop. As community member Sub Bowie expressed, they really lean into support from their partners to get through SubDrop. But for some people, like my friend Majestic Beast, SubDrop is just not worth the pain. As a war veteran with 2 resulting mental illnesses, he knows himself enough to know that scening is just not worth the risk to his mental stability. So if you know that your subdrop gets bad, it's important to analyze the risk for yourself and to take care of yourself. And thank you again to the FetLife community for helping with this week's submissions portion. I feel like your insight and your vulnerability in sharing really, really helps the listeners, and it helps other people to learn and grow. It's not just me talking, it's you guys adding to this community, and I really appreciate it. So if a lot of this sounds like you, or you want to try to mitigate these effects, there are ways to minimize subdrop, and there are preparations you can take to assuage subdrop when it does occur. Before play, you can go ahead and negotiate aftercare in advance, and don't make assumptions about this. As a professional dominatrix, I always include a bit of aftercare into our sessions, unless it has been specifically requested that we don't. Most of the time, this aftercare includes snuggling, but there have been instances when someone really just wanted some conversation, and there has been a client or two that wants no aftercare at all. They just want out of there. And I've met doms who absolutely will not offer aftercare, and I'm not talking about pro doms either. It is okay if cuddling is someone's hard limit. That is to be respected too. But it is important to have these conversations beforehand, even if you're meeting with a pro dom. If your dominant is not into aftercare, it is up to you to either find someone willing and happy to help you out with that, or find ways to self-soothe. Physical care like soft, snuggly blankets, special drinks like warm tea or strawberry milk, a special food, chicken noodle soup. These are all things that you can have as personal aftercare. Emotional aftercare can include affirmations like, "Good boy, you did a good job," reassurance, or gratitude, "Thank you so much for serving me." When you are alone, self-care can include journaling your feelings. First off, side note, if you're not journaling at this point, like, I want to beat you, and not in a fun way. Everyone needs to journal. Doms, subs, male, female, non-binary, everything, everyone, everything in between. Everyone should be journaling. If you are not journaling in 2025, you're setting yourself up for failure, honestly. Everyone should be journaling your feelings. And then also getting extra rest, especially if you're one of those people that are like, pride themselves on, "Oh, I only need 4 hours of sleep." No, bitch, get some sleep. Get more sleep than that, okay? So, like I said, comfort food. Oh, another great idea is to reach out to a trusted friend or community. And this doesn't have to be someone in the kink community. It would be very smart to just set up meeting for coffee, or meeting for a drink, or meeting for an appetizer, or to walk in the park with a friend who might not even be in the kink community. You don't even have to tell them anything, but just planning to be around someone that you get along with or you can chat with helps those decreasing like dopamine and neurotransmitter levels. So that can help balance you out so that your crash is not that hard. And then one last suggestion is, if you don't have people that you can call upon or someone that you can meet, plan to take a trip to a local animal shelter to pet some cats or play with some dogs, take their dogs for a walk or throw the ball to them. Snuggling with some animals, because that's going to help out with the oxytocin and the dopamine. It's just going to help you to slowly balance the extreme flood of neurotransmitters that happened the previous day or earlier that day. So there are things that you can do for yourself if you don't have a good personal aftercare setup person that you can like snuggle with or spend the day in bed with, So these things all give a boost to the possibly crashing chemicals circulating through your body. Now, some long-term practices can include building rituals of grounding. Box breathing or deep breathing has scientifically proven calming and nervous system regulating effects. Meditation, stretching, exercise, some physical exercise, these are all practices that can become rituals of aftercare for SubDrop. Or even better, if you just incorporate them into your everyday life, you'll create a more balanced physiological and emotional ecosystem in the first place. Another important thing is to know your personal signs of drop and have a written plan or list to take action against it being a really bad drop. Having something written down so that you don't have to use all that mental strength that it takes to remember what works for me. What do I take baths, or do I need to go for a walk? Like, have instructions or a list for yourself so that when you're in the throes of it, it's there ready for you. I do this for sicknesses. I've got lists of different natural remedies and comforts for various illnesses. So when I'm taking care of someone or when I'm sick myself and I just don't really have the mental focus or energy to remember what works or what helps, I've got lists that I can go to and just like, okay, yeah, rub this essential oil on their feet and, put this in the diffuser or make this soup and make sure to add this. I've got lists so that in the moment when I really need it, I don't have to use the mental ability. I can put all my effort into physically helping. And so this is a great idea to do for SubDrop too. Have your list ready of things that, like, assignments for yourself for when you're experiencing it. And also keep perspective, babe. A drop is temporary. And every time you recover from something, you become more resilient. Reframe SubDrop as just a part of the journey, not a flaw. If you are a sub who has tips or tricks that I didn't mention in this episode that you find help with your SubDrop, please, please, please share them in the comments. It could literally change someone's world. Thank you all for joining me this week. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss next Friday's episode. And as always, stay kinky, my pets.